of the value that can be realized using AI comes from beyond tech. Tech is now increasingly table stakes. There is a little bit of stability in terms of what can be done versus not. Obviously, things will keep evolving. Like Krishna sir said, every day there is something new that's coming up, and that's absolutely 100% true. But there is now some understanding of what can be done versus not, right? What directions the tech is taking. So the idea is to say that as you think about fundamental reimagination of the operating model, reorganizing people that are working around that area, reskilling, that is really what gets us to actual value, not just the tech. Obviously, tech is central, it's important, we have to get it right, and there is confidence around it, but just tech is definitely insufficient, is what we found. I'll move to the next, second imperative. Now, the second imperative, the idea is to say that can I take a bigger sort of step back and think about as a nation when we think about what is happening and what is the startup ecosystem looking like. We have many startups, 2,000 plus AI startups. This is number 2 globally. It's fantastic. I think it's a metric to a statistic to be really proud of. But as you also think the opportunity on the other side is that if you were to just look at number of patents, our contribution to number of patents is less than 1% at this point in time. Right? Like things that are happening for the first time, contribution to the global scene is at this point in time is a big opportunity as we think about it. So the idea is to say that is this forcing a question for us to think about application-oriented innovation, which I think is fairly evolved for us at this point in time. Can that be complemented also with invention first? It doesn't have to mean that we go after, let's say, building models, but different parts of the stack, what invention can come out of India, which can then be contributed to the global scene, is what we believe an opportunity that we must think about. Now, this is an interesting chart. You want to think about this from a national priority when it comes to AI. How are different countries targeting and tackling AI, right? And this is, look at the keywords that you see over there, right? But what I want to draw your attention to is what you see for India. I think quite proudly, our approach as a nation has been to make AI affordable, to make it democratized, to make access possible for everyone, and to build it for social advantage. As against, let's say, US, where it's very modular. There are companies that are operating at different parts of the stack. They are pushing the boundaries on tech. It's very frontier-driven AI approach for US. For China, it's a bit more verticalized. China is going after, let's say, if you were to think of a stack of horizontals in the tech perspective, think about a sliver that is cutting across vertically. China is thinking about AI and getting it right in those slivers and trying to get value out of those verticals. And India, like I just described, is on the third column over there. The idea is to say that as we think about all the initiatives and pushing the innovation agenda and the quotient, what can we do further to complement our approach? Is there an opportunity for us to also think about pushing frontiers in the tech space as we think about, and we have this very proud approach of and democratizing AI and super frugal, right? But how do we think about pushing boundaries on innovation is the other imperative that we want to speak about. And finally, the third imperative is around MSMEs. Now here, the question for MSMEs is not so much about will AI work for me? The question for MSMEs is more about how can I access this? Is this even affordable for me in the first place? Do I even have the starting data point within my organization to make any meaningful impact come through just my firm? Right? And the idea there is that this is obviously not, like was spoken about in the previous sessions as well, but the idea is to say that this is not so much about just one stakeholder in the AI story who's going to get this right. Many people have to join hands, come together, and only then will this come true. We have a few ideas that we've come up with as we think about, let's say, what policymakers can do, what the entrepreneurs themselves should do, and what can startup ecosystem do as we think about contributing to this space. The idea around cluster-based approaches for all of them is something that we find to be very relevant. And as we think about, let's say, specifically startups, is there an opportunity for us to build more frugal solutions that MSMEs can easily adopt? Very easy to understand, very sharp pointed, let's say specific to a cluster which has a certain sector of companies. That is something that we believe is something we should focus on. And finally, it is not going to come through just because there is supply available. The demand also has to be spurred. What that means is that MSME owners, proprietors, the awareness of what can be done versus not, what is really potentially valuable in their own setup, has to go further up. And forums like these, and especially the ones that go to the grassroots, are going to make all the difference in our view on that case. So that's the summary of the report that we have this one time. But very happy to also engage with anybody who's interested in more conversations on these topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for highlighting those imperatives, the studies, scaling, transformation, innovation, everything which is very important. I'm sure everybody in the room will echo the same thoughts. And you'll get the copies of the report available, both in hard and soft. Hard, of course, to you, because we also go for digital, like we go for the trees, we also go for digital. So with this, we come to the end of the session for the inaugural. I think my thanks would not be limited in the words, because it's the presence of everyone, the whole spirit of the room, which I can see. But as my duty bound, with responsibility and the shoulders are carrying on, I'll start off with the special thanks to our, of course, the Chief Guest Secretary, sir, for making it up. He was tied up. We had a parliament session and the questions to attend, but we could spare our time. And like you mentioned, there are multiple events which are happening as a pre-summit event. I'm sure this one will be something will be registered in his mind for long. And we hope to do it multiple more things with the government as a run up to the AI Impact Summit, and we'll keep you all informed. So special thanks to the Secretary. So thanks to Cynthia for making it up, and Cynthia for, of course, bringing the valuable proposition as acknowledged by the Secretary. And like I mentioned, Ficci will be happy to work with you further on this area to get the stakeholders rightfully in the room and to have more discussions, and hopefully we will have something as well with you. Thanks to Christina for, of course, joining in. Christina, like I mentioned, and the Secretary also acknowledged the role of AI for the industrial growth is very important, and you mentioned about the COE. We'll be happy to explore that with you further. Thanks, Nicole, for sharing the presentation, the partners, the whole team of BCG. Their names, if I keep on counting, the list will go on for long, but I'll say thank you, team, for joining us there, for being with us for a couple of months. There's been multiple round of iterations. This report has gone through the inputs from the members, so I'm sure you all will enjoy reading it, and we look forward to your honest feedback in case you feel something is missing and more could be made to it. And I will say partners for my time, my chair and the co-chair, which I always keep in here. Roma, thank you for being here, and Dr. thank you for being here. This AI and technology, while it connects everybody, but we are happy that this room could get people across India at one point of time. And then the day when you're talking about on 18th of December. Thank you, all of you, for being there, for supporting, for being such a nice audience, and we look forward to have you throughout the day, because the sessions which follow in after these are also very, very important. Whether the Secretary talked about the skilling thing, I think the next session is going to touch on that only. We are not talking about replacements, we talk about how upskilling, how new talents can be developed, and how companies can look into it. So we request you to all to please stay. Thank you to media for covering this event. With this, I close the inaugural session with a round of applause for the inaugural speakers from the audience. Thank you. Can I request